This is Rudy Giuliani, and this is the Rudy Giuliani Show on Lindell TV. And we are coming to you from New York City. We're at the Trump International Hotel on Columbus Circle, and we will show you some scenes of New York, basically looking up Broadway toward the cultural center of America, Lincoln Center, which contains the Metropolitan Opera, the New York City Ballet, the New York Philharmonic, Juilliard School of Music, and many, many other world-class, world-known, world-renowned cultural institutions. That's basically the street we're on is at the bottom, and you move up to 63rd, 64th, 65th, and then you get up to 66, 67, 68, and now you're at Lincoln Center, where that white building is that we're focusing on a bit. You see with the columns right there. That's either Juilliard or it's Avery Fisher Hall. Avery Fisher Hall is a concert hall for the New York Philharmonic. Carnegie Hall used to be, but Carnegie Hall is now used for visiting orchestras, great world-class visiting orchestras, and for special performances. Well, I mean, there are a couple of things that are on hold right now in the Trump administration, and we're waiting for breakthroughs, aren't we? Some of the things have gone along on Trump time, and I think we've gotten used to that. All of a sudden, in no time, we go down to a completely secure border. In no time, we're throwing out the worst criminals, and the Democrats are doing their usual, and that is wanting to bring criminals back to the United States, just like they want to let them out of jail. This city, I walk around this city, maybe later, I just pick them out, the ones that should be in jail. I mean, about 5,000 to 9,000 that are out of jail due to Governor Cuomo's actions in 2019 on bail, on criminal discovery, and then maybe his most disgusting one of all, on parole. So that due to the guy who wants to run for mayor, Andrew Cuomo, there are 43 police killers that have been released since 2019, walking around the city. Some of whom have already gotten in trouble again. Thank you, Governor Cuomo. I guess when you're careless about the lives of old people, you're careless about the lives of everyone, right? But he's the leading candidate for mayor, which is extraordinarily discouraging about the perception of the people in New York. I mean, we're beyond now blaming it on. You can't figure out that this political party in New York is a piece of crap, a dishonest, dangerous political institution in New York for sure. Then you're writing your own fate, aren't you? When the guy throws the poor old lady on the subway, there'll be a reason for it. It wouldn't happen if you had Giuliani as mayor. It will happen if you have a Cuomo as mayor. I didn't have. How many people in Rikers Island now, Mike?
Man, you got roughly 7,300.
7,300. Okay, we had 18,000. Want to do the arithmetic? The arithmetic. I mean, you don't think there still are about another 10,000 around that belong there, that are raping people, beating people, and then that's not to even add in the addition that goes way beyond anything that ever happened to me or anyone else, and that is how many criminals do we have that are illegal? First of all, we don't know how many illegal aliens came in. It could be bare minimum 12, 13 million, maximum 20 million.
Well,
Mayor, how many came into New York? Who the hell knows?
It's funny you say that, Mayor, because, Mayor Adams actually got some balls, and he was going to put the ICE office back on Rikers Island, but liberal city council sued him, and a judge temporarily agreed. So if the ICE office was there,
the crooked Democrat judge agreed.
Right. That if ICE was there, it would greatly benefit us at Rikers Island because we do have a lot of illegal migrants in there right now.
Yeah, she had done the opposite. She'd never get reappointed by the crooked Democratic machine because nobody wants to say, including our newspapers, that the judicial system in New York City and the four boroughs is an adjunct of the crooked Democratic Party.
Absolutely. It's
And
really,
that's why they put criminals out.
it makes me upset. I'm sure it makes you upset
It made me upset from the time I practiced law.
because you built this city when it was in a bad place. This city did a total 180 under you.
Reason, I don't know if Mayor Adams does it, but I interviewed every single person I appointed for judge.
Right.
Not only interviewed every single person, I required my committee, because I trusted me more than them, to give me 3 for every one.
Yeah.
I say, give me 3 qualified ones.
Yeah, it's
And then I'd pick the one that I thought was the best of the 3 qualified ones. I had done that as a U.S. attorney, too. A lot of U.S. attorneys just rely on their committee and then interview the one person sent by the committee. I had the committee send me 3 people. Can't imagine the very famous people I rejected. But look, I was the boss. It was my conceptions, my ideas. I have been working on it for 12 years, going back to the Attorney General's Committee on Violent Crime. I knew exactly what I wanted to do as U.S. attorney, and my committee knew who were qualified. They didn't know the special qualifications I needed to get done what I wanted to get done. And you got to put the time in. This job is not about going to nightclubs at night, or going to the beach for most of your presidency.
Well, Mayor, and I'm not defending the guy, but since Trump became president, Mayor Adams did do somewhat of a turnaround. But it's too little, too late. Too little, too late. That's it.
I agree with you. Right now, he looks like the best choice.
He should switch to the GOP, and Trump should endorse him. That's what I think.
Look, I agree. He made a lot of mistakes.
Right.
I'm probably listed every one of them over the last 4 years.
Absolutely.
On the other hand, and there is no doubt he's the best choice.
No, he's the best choice. That's it. Especially with Trump in office.
Yeah, look what he just did. That was a very smart, good thing to do, to put ICE there, because those people, as you know, will fall through the cracks. And before we find them, they'll kill 3 people.
But we had ICE there. We had ICE there. Mayor de Blasio got rid of it in 2015.
The communists got rid of it.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. He ruined it.
And I do not understand how they can throw out a federal agency. How the city council can throw out a federal agency. I think the FBI should come in and arrest them all for violating federal law. Yeah. Probably a lot of other reasons to arrest them, too. Have you ever seen a bigger group of jackasses to the New York City Council?
It's like, I ask myself, why do we even have Republicans in the city council?
Well, I just had Frank on, and I'll tell you why.
It's crazy.
They actually get a lot of attention. Look at how Victoria gets all that attention.
No, I get it, but it's hard for them to do anything or pass anything because you have all these leftist
but it's
crazies.
Good for the rest of America. Like when something crazy happens in New York,
right?
We got 2 or 3 articulate Republicans that can get up and say, well, we're not all like that. We don't all think that non-citizens should vote.
Right, of course.
Particularly when the New York Constitution says they can't.
We're not all going to
Well,
we're not all stupid, please. We're not all stupid in New York.
Let me tell you something, Mayor.
Most of us.
If Frank Morano becomes a city councilman, that is a great asset to those other city council people there because that guy, yes, he could talk. He's an educated person, and he's very, he's not closed-minded. He's open-minded, you know? So,
so in a way, if the city council were like 30-21, it would still be a big Democratic number, but the Republicans wouldn't stand out. But because they're so small, when something happens, they go to them, and therefore they have a big voice. I even think if it's done the right way, ultimately we're going to turn this around. So, let's see what happens this time.
Is there a determination tomorrow happening with the ICE thing you were saying before? Something?
Yes, there's going to be an argument in court before Judge, I think it's Rosado, who I think is the product of the Democratic boss in Queens.
Okay.
So consider the Democratic boss in Queens as hearing the case.
All right. Well, that's pretty sad.
Yeah. Now, I don't know, maybe not. This is unfair, but when I was the U.S. attorney, the Democratic boss in Queens was one of the biggest crooks in New York City. But that
gotta still be that way.
Not unusual, by the way. So looks like the Wall Street Journal is like waiting. Like you wait for New Year's Eve, because they have an inkling and a feeling that Trump is going to change on tariffs. If you look at sprinkled in their columns today is Trump another Mitterrand, and it's not a criticism. It's is he realistic? Well, let me tell you why. First of all, we have indicated that there are a bunch of them ready to go forward. We've been saying that now for about 4 days. But today there was a pretty good leak that India is on the cusp of going forward either tomorrow or this weekend. Hence, the market did well today. Trump is very market aware. And he knows that the only way he brought the market back from what looked like catastrophe was saying that he was going to be flexible on tariffs. And then yesterday and today, he got a bump by saying that he's going to decrease the tariffs on China and move the others forward quickly. So what the Wall Street Journal says, who opposed his tariff policies from the beginning, I'll just read the beginning of the editorial. It's called, "Is This Trump's Mitterrand Moment?" That's the former president of France who saved his government from socialism. And he's also the one who named me Rudy the Rock, when he came here. So I don't know if I like him or not like him, but since I don't know that much about him, I like him. President Trump continues to walk back his original tariff assault, and markets are pleased. They rose again Wednesday after Mr. Trump said he won't fire the Federal Reserve Chairman. I should have mentioned that too. The president said he never intended to fire the Federal Reserve Chairman and is likely to retreat from his highest China tariff. Is this Mr. Trump's Francois Mitterrand moment? Readers of a certain age will recall how the French socialist president swept into power in 1981, promising a far-left agenda. The market reaction was brutal. Within a year, he had put socialism on pause, and by 1983, he had to abandon most of it. He went on to serve 2 terms as a moderate, if not a conservative. So it's a bit of a stretch, but they're saying, they've been telling Trump forever that tariffs are wrong, and now he's finally realizing it. Well, it's a bit of an oversimplification. First of all, they leave out what we've accomplished so far already with tariffs. I will get this ready for you. Well, this is going to go on for a while, but I'm going to compile how much we've gained where people have directly said, I'm moving this to America because of the tariff. I'm moving that to America. We're talking in the trillions, babes. More than the Wall Street Journal's worth. Had he never made the threat, that never would have happened. Number 2, tariffs are not a religion, guys. You're getting like the climate change people. Tariffs aren't good or bad. It depends how you use it, when you use it, how high is it, how low is it, what's the tariff on you, how much ability do you have to manufacture that? Is there something you really can efficiently manufacture that you can buy cheaper from somewhere else? And because of that, you're in a very vulnerable position because they could put a very high tariff on it because you really can't make it efficiently anymore. Because we can't make everything anymore. We're too much of a specialized society. Well, then you got to find something else that they need that you're going to put a high tariff on. And then the 2 of you start to reduce the tariff to something rational. Nothing wrong with that. That's good business, good negotiating. It's understanding how the tariff fits in to the leverage you have or you don't have. The problem is the president had to put it out as one big giant thing to get their attention. Probably would have been better to do it in sections. But he only has 4 years. He doesn't have an 8-year presidency. It's got to get done at the right level and in the right way. And in order to look, I'll tell you, this is no longer a secret. I got away with it for 3 or 4 years. Here's how I got the budget of New York City down, under control, and with a surplus for the first time, I think, ever, with a city council that was 45 Democrats. I cut the hell out of the budget. I cut everything. I went to my OMB director. Mayor gets to set the amount of income the city is going to get, predict it. City council can't spend more than that, but it can move everything around. I went to the head of OMB and I said, give me the lowest number we can justify in court. They used to give the mayor the highest number so he could look like a hero spending all kind of money, and then he'd have a deficit. And then he'd look like a jackass. I said, look, my first deputy mayor and best friend and I decided on something the opposite. Let's set the lowest possible budget. And then we'll build back some into it. And maybe we'll still get a good little decline. So I cut everything. I cut the Metropolitan Opera. I told you how much I love opera. One of my best friends was the director of it. Everybody was angry at me. I was cutting things that I really wasn't going to cut. I presented them with a low ball budget. Articles like the city can't run on this budget. I felt like saying, yeah, but we're going to pretend for a while. And then I built those back. I made them work to get those back. I made them work to get back both what we both wanted, which I wouldn't give them for free, even though I wanted it. I knew they would. And then I would have to give them back a little something they wanted. But I could end up giving back them a third or half of what they wanted, not all of it.
You got them to work.
It was a game that I played, and I was able to balance the budget immediately and for 4 years create something unheard of in New York, surpluses. And this is what he's doing. But they're not giving him the political room to do it with all the criticism and the market reaction. And I think these adjustments are very, very wise. And they're not the retreat that is presented like Mitterrand. He didn't run like he was going to impose tariffs no matter what. He basically made clear he was going to do it based on reciprocity, which means as a bargaining tool. And not only is he doing it, he's much more successful at it than anybody thought he would be. Just off the top of my head, I think of the biggest chip manufacturing and most sophisticated in the world going to start doing 20 to 30% of their activity in America. That's, as President used to say, huge. You got companies from North Korea coming over to the United States. You've got companies from Israel coming over to the United States. You've got companies that make cars, bringing the cars over to the United States. Since there are tariffs on parts, they're moving the part manufacturing over to the United States. Now, there will be things that get exposed in this that don't make sense to move to the United States. But if they're playing ball with you, then you give them a break on that. You play ball with them. That's what he's trying to do. We were basically too stupid, too lazy, and too interested in everybody doing this, what they could get for it in the way of euphemized bribes to care about the United States. So this is a very, very interesting moment. And if the Wall Street Journal wants to paint it as he's retreating completely from his tariff position, fine. Play it that way. It's not going to turn out that way. It's not going to turn out the way you originally thought, and it's not going to turn out the way you think now. There's also an article, a poll that was put out by Mark Penn and Andrew Stein, supporting the fact that Trump is doing well on everything but trade and tariffs. On immigration, he's got 74% support. 81% think he should balance the budget, which, by the way, is part of the tariff program. But a majority of New Yorkers are against woke policies. 65% support him in banning males from women's sports. 59% support eliminating all preferences by race. He's got the highest favorability rating in his administration. Second highest, Robert Kennedy. Unfortunately, 84% of the polls respondents say they favor free trade. However, 66% agree that tariffs are important to protect jobs, which means they don't understand it. He's not against free trade. Tariffs and free trade are not inconsistent with each other. Disproportionate tariffs, one-way tariffs, are not free trade. When they got 100% tariff and you have none, that's not free trade. They're robbing you. We do not have a free trade system. We have an oligarchical system. We have a system where the U.S. is subsidizing the world. So I think this is getting straightened out, and it's getting straightened out in the right way. And then, of course, they run this big headline: fear of market pain spurred president to drop Fed threats. The president has we know the president, that this president thinks out loud. And to say that if he's thinking something, that's his position and he changed it, would stop anybody else from doing that. Now, thank God it's not going to stop him. And I'm going to tell you why this is important. And it would be really good if more American politicians did this and the press learned how to deal with it, except not like the savage ignoramuses they are. You want to know what your president is thinking. There are very few decisions that a president gets to make that are meaningful, that are obvious. It's obvious we should have that tariff. It's obvious that we should support this program. It's obvious that almost every one of the tough issues, and they wouldn't be tough issues if that weren't the case, have fairly good arguments on both sides. That's why he's run into a problem getting an administration to agree completely on the approach to Iran, getting them to agree completely on an approach to Russia, Ukraine. Because let's just for simplicity's sake, divide them into the isolationists and the interventionists. Well, he's got about an equal number of both, and he's got a little of both in him. And they're not going to see eye to eye on many of these things. But they shouldn't, because sometimes one is the right answer and sometimes the other is the right answer. But you got to be right about which ones. Otherwise, you may make the wrong answer like Chamberlain did, and you ended up at World War II. And I do think there are some rules that can guide you through it. And I'm just not close enough to it to know whether those rules are being followed or not, because I do have considerably more concern about Iran than I do about the trade and the markets, and that's all going to work out. The Ayatollah has to be eliminated. We are wasting time and lives. We're not going to solve anything in the Middle East as long as they're around, and they are not capable of making an agreement. An agreement is a sucker punch. It's a sucker punch that we only thought the Obama people were dumb enough, or the Biden people were dumb enough to do it. If the leaks are correct, there are people within the administration who don't seem to have that knowledge and experience, and people who do. And so I hope the talk about a negotiated agreement is just that, talk, as we prepare to knock the shit out of them and get rid of them and have regime change. Because until we do, you're not going to have peace in the Middle East. And you're going to have nuclear weapons, or you're going to be 2 weeks away from it, because the minute they can, they'll cheat again. Well, they've been doing it for 50 years. Why would they change? And particularly since you threatened the hell out of them and you backed off. Read my book, Stand Up to Bullies, and you'll get the best negotiating strategy for how to deal with tyrants. So they believe he's backed off removing Jerome Powell because of fear of market pain. That was too complex a decision anyway. First of all, if he had removed Powell, yeah, he would have gotten a market reaction. He'd have got this reaction, that reaction. I'm not sure it'd be so great. Powell's not all that popular. It would have been a wrong legal strategy. I believe constitutionally, trying to say that he can't remove Powell because he has to be removed for cause is unconstitutional. It goes back to Humphrey's executor and the Republicans reacting to Franklin Roosevelt, where we set a precedent, and since then we've been trying to chip away at that precedent. Very simple. We've got 3 branches of government only. So now let's take the Federal Reserve and the FTC, Federal Trade Commission and the Federal Reserve. Do they belong? They have to belong to a branch of government. We don't have a branch of government known as Federal Reserve or FTC. Do they belong to Article 1? Are they a member of the Congress? No. Number 2, do they belong to Article 3? Are they a member of the judiciary? Of course not. Number 3, are they a member of Article 2, the executive? Yes. But if you're a member of the executive branch of government, there's no sub-executive branch. The executive branch of the government, the Supreme Court has said, and the Constitution basically says, is the President of the United States. He runs it. Congress can put some limitations on that. Some. It's really never been decided how many. One for sure is they have a role in the appointment of certain high-level officials, cabinet level, right at the sub-cabinet level. What that role is advise and consent. You got to get their advice and consent on your appointments of the Secretary of State, deputy, assistant, under, attorney general, deputy. The rest you don't, but that group you do. It's a pretty good group, pretty big group. But when the founding fathers determined that, which they weren't sure they wanted to do, they weren't sure the president shouldn't be able just to pick whoever the hell he wanted, because it was his branch of government. But they decided that some of the responsibilities are so awesome, you need help. Then the issue became, suppose he wants to fire them. And there were people who said, well, if he wanted to fire them, since he had to get advice and consent, he should go back to the Congress to get their permission. And they very, very strongly and uniformly rejected that. I'm talking about Madison and Hamilton. And they said, no, that's a totally different thing. You cannot force the president or an executive to keep people he doesn't trust. And there'll be things he gets to see nobody else does, or things that he wants, and you can't hold him accountable to achieve what he wants to achieve and force him to keep people that he no longer trusts to achieve that. That's inconsistent with the democratic goals we elect a president to accomplish, closing the borders. If he appointed someone and they were not closing the borders, he can't keep that person and be able to live up to what he promised through the democratic process to people. So then when he's unsuccessful, it's because you've tied his hands, not because he's not capable. So making a very long presentation shorter, Congress has limited ability to prevent certain appointments. It has no ability to prevent firings of anyone in the executive branch. Otherwise, it is the executive branch. So when they put things like, you can only remove an FTC commissioner, you can only remove a Federal Reserve member or chairman for cause, that's unconstitutional. The court's going to decide that this year, probably in a case, I think, involving the FTC. Now, why am I telling you all this? I'm telling you all this because if you presented them with the Federal Reserve, that would be the toughest set of facts to present to the court and allow the president to have what they would call political control. Well, the reality is the Constitution gives him political control. We're just uncomfortable with it. Well, then we got to change the Constitution. So I believe that if he were to move on Powell, unless, God forbid, it was absolutely necessary, he could jeopardize 20 other situations where he's going to get complete power over those agencies. And then once you've gotten that, if you want to take the step with the Federal Reserve to bring him into line, and once you've got the president, it's a much more intelligent way to do it. And that's why I believe he ruminated about it, hoping that he could control Powell that way. But he was never going to do that. But, I mean, they got to paint it like he's backing down. That was a very extraordinarily intelligent analysis to go through. I don't mean mine. I mean what the administration did. And look, I'm not saying I get all of it. I don't understand what the hell's going on with Iran. And I'm worried about it. And I don't like what's going on with Ukraine. But I do like what's going on with trade. I think it takes a little bit more work to understand it and to get rid of your damn prejudices like the Wall Street Journal has. And I think it takes a little bit more understanding of sensible strategy to figure out what he's doing with the Federal Reserve. So let's take a break. And when we come back, we'll talk about the big one, the only real big one, China. Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's Coffee.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day and I absolutely love it, and so will you. If you want to feel and look your best, you need to check out Pure Health Research. They have 45 premium health supplements that are designed to help you with everyday health goals. Whether it's boosting your energy or trimming belly fat, supporting healthy blood sugar, pumping your testosterone up, or even reducing swelling in your legs, Pure Health Research Supplement Store has you covered. Each formula is crafted with natural, non-GMO ingredients, backed by clinical research and manufactured right here in the USA. And here's the best part. Pure Health Research is offering you an exclusive 35% discount. Just go to purehealthresearch.com and use promo code Lindell at checkout. With their 365-day money-back guarantee, there's nothing to lose. So head over to purehealthresearch.com now, explore their 45 amazing supplements, and save 35% before this deal ends with promo code Lindell.
Good evening. Once again, this is Rudy Giuliani, and this is the Rudy Giuliani Show on Lindell TV. So the big question is, who's going to be first in terms of tariffs, and what about China? So right now, the leak is India. So, and right now, neither Ted nor I will win. I picked UK, and Ted picked Vietnam. And the leak is, but now leaks don't always work out. And I think India gets kind of a push, because if India happens, Vice President Vance will get a great deal of credit for it. He spent a very long time with Modi, with his family, and of course his wife, who is of Indian descent. And by the time they were finished, they had pretty much said they had negotiated a deal, pretty much a 0-0 deal. So the only question now are there hidden impediments to trade, because the tariff is not always the whole picture. In fact, some of the hidden impediments can knock it way off. But I think those were negotiated too. So right now, the indication is that the indication that India is going to be the first. But we'll have to see. I think when that first one happens, it'll calm everything down quite a bit. And China, even though he may pare it back a bit, that's still going to be a while. And it was Secretary Bessent, by the way, who expects India to strike the first bilateral deal. That's the source that it came from. It wasn't a leak. It was a straight out and out prediction. Right now, the Democrat Party is suffering a fairly big problem with young people. House and Senate Democrats are a low ebb among Americans under 30, with just 23% approving of them. And even at Trump, even as Trump approval ratings among young people remain, relatively stable, Democrats have, I think, stable actually. Democrats have plummeted 25 percentage points. They were 48% favorable. They're now only 23% favorable. And Trump is anywhere from 7 to 10 points more favorable. And the young people were never supposed to be his strength. We see that Dick Durbin is on his way out, basically acknowledging that he's too damn old to do the job. Senator McConnell was told that Dick Durbin is leaving, and he said, "Who?" Dick. Who?
Well,
he doesn't remember. He doesn't see. It's not McConnell's fault, because he doesn't know he's in the Senate, so therefore he's not there too long.
That's true. Well, Mayor, when you have the whatever of the DNC, David Ha, going on all over the news saying that he's going to primary people in Democratic Party with far left people, that kind of scares the general public, because we all know what the far left is about.
So as a Republican, you say to yourself, "Oh, that's great, we'll beat him." Here's the problem. Every once in a while, the country goes a little crazy and elects them.
Right.
I mean, you look at AOC; she's creeping up. Can we show this right now?
Of course.
This should drive you nuts if you see this. This is a Democratic poll. Schumer's been in office 432 years, right?
Yeah.
And he's 150 years old, if that's possible. And the best he can do among Democrats, he's been their senator from before I was born. Best he can do is 52%, which is actually amazing that he's at 52%. Ocasio-Cortez is 12 points ahead of him. She hasn't done anything.
Well, Mayor, you know what I think it is with the
You think it's also Schumer being a rat fink?
well
that Jewish people.
That's also the one of it, and the other thing is that these young Democrats like AOC, Jasmine Crockett, that other kook, you know, they have social media. They utilize TikTok, they utilize Instagram, they go on tours to all these colleges, and I think the older Democrats don't utilize that, and that's why these younger generation leftists are more popular than them right now, because they utilize all that stuff.
True.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing with Schumer is every time he appears, he's such a that's an annoying character that he loses votes.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, even Democrats say we don't like him.
No.
Nobody likes him.
And what has he really
He's only there
done?
because of money. I mean, the Democrats in the Senate don't like him. They're there because nobody can raise money like he does, both for the party and for himself. The guy's become a multimillionaire, having never had a real job.
Yeah. It's American dream.
The race to the bottom on the Democrat side.
Yeah.
Yep. So one of the biggest phonies and one of the biggest contributors to the illegals who came in. Actually, I should qualify that. One of the biggest helps to the Chinese spies who came in is the CB1 program. The CB1 program was invented by Biden about 2.5 years into his orchestrated invasion of America. And this was to make it easier to get past asylum. You could set up an appointment on a computer under the CBP1 program, and you'd be waved in. But they were going to limit it to like very, very few per month. So that'd keep it way down. Well, the very few per month in a year and a half ended up being 1.4 million, about whom we know bullshit, nothing. Well, one guy has gone, this is like swinging doors, but this will give you an idea of how the Trump people, Holman and Noam, and are keeping track of this right down to the little details. This guy, this Venezuelan illegal, Andre Hernandez Romero, first made his way into the United States as one of the special rush to the border invitees of Biden in July 2024. He was expelled. How that happened, I don't know, because only about 15% were expelled. He must have been really a bad guy. But he showed up again because he got back in again. He's in the group that we don't count, of which there could be anywhere from 500,000 to 2 million more. But then he was found on his way to California, and then he applied illegally under the CBP1 program and got approved, because you're supposed to apply outside the country. Well, we just sent him. He's one of the people we sent to El Salvador with that guy that all the Democrats want to bring back because he's a fabulous MS-13 chauffeur and wife beater. They think that the women in New York need a few more guys who beat them. So the Democrats have expended a lot of their campaign money to go down to El Salvador and convince the president of El Salvador, who thinks they're nuts because the guy is a criminal, that they want him back. But they want him back. They're working on it. Abrego Garcia. Every day a new thing comes out with Abrego Garcia. In 2022, he was arrested in Tennessee. He was driving a convicted human smuggler's car. This is a guy who smuggles children in. He was stopped by the cops while transporting these people. He was pulled over by a Tennessee state trooper for speeding. But when the cop stumbled upon the Salvadoran illegal, who they want to bring back, with 8 others in the car and no luggage, and they were making a trip from Texas to Maryland. The trooper the trooper thought there was something amiss. Good trooper. At the time, the alleged gangbanger claimed the packed SUV was owned by his boss, who turned out to be Jose Ramon Hernandez Reyes, also an illegal alien convicted of smuggling. He's driving the car owned by an illegal smuggler. He's got 8 people in the car who are illegal and don't even have any luggage. And the Democrats are wasting millions and taking time away from their constituents, going over to El Salvador, begging for him to come back because I guess MS-13 needs another chauffeur real quick. Are they the Democratic Party get a contribution from MS-13? The responding officer wrote that he suspected it was a human trafficking incident. Oh, yeah, it was a genius conclusion. But of course, they let him go and never back then told the immigration authorities, because nobody cooperated with the immigration authorities because Biden didn't want him to. Now you got another one, which is really a tragedy. Oscar Eduardo Ortega Anguiano, 43, an illegal Mexican. He was drunk driving at over 100 miles an hour when he slammed into a car on Interstate 405 and killed a young California couple. The father of the young lady said, "It's disgusting. You have 2 young, unbelievable future productive American citizens killed for nothing. And that illegal immigrant who already has been deported twice is going to be released again."
Thank you, Joe Biden.
He can be released again. He can be released in 3 months. This happened in November of 2021. He killed somebody. How much? 3 years or less? Now, in New York, according to this case they got the injunction on, when this guy is released, their correction authorities can't inform ICE.
Nope. According to the sanctuary city laws.
Yeah.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. And I know a lot don't pay attention to it, but a lot do. I mean, some of these people, and we could go look them up, in the interim kill people before ICE. Like, you put this guy out, right? You don't tell ICE. Next time we find out about him, he kills another couple. And then maybe finally we get him. Or we're talking about California, so it's a sanctuary state. They don't inform ICE. Now, there's if you inform ICE, you violate local law. It's my contention, and it can take a while for Pam Bondi to establish this precedent, that by following local law, they're violating federal law because they're interfering with the federal immigration process.
Right.
It's like aiding and abetting the escape of a criminal. And you're asking your police to do that. It's disgusting.
Well, Mayor, you'd be happy to know that, I don't know if you probably heard that the DOJ used RICO, something you know.
Yes, 27 of them.
Yeah, to convict not to convict, to arrest Tren Diagua, and they are charging one of them with terrorism charges.
There's a Democratic judge, of course, a Democratic judge in New Mexico, who's now been thrown off the bench, or he resigned, because he had a tenant or he had a live-in friend. His live-in friend was a member of the Tren Diagua gang, the gang that Governor Feliz Navidad and the boy mayor of Colorado said doesn't exist. Ortega Lopez was arrested during a Homeland Security raid, okay? He was arrested. He was arrested during a Homeland Security raid. At the judge's home. They went to the judge's home and arrested him. They also seized 4 firearms from Cano's daughter's home after getting search warrants relating to social media evidence of Ortega or Lopez's alleged ties to Nicaragua. They found pictures on social media of the Venezuelan national eating dinner with Cano's family and posing for Christmas pictures. He's wearing a cowboy hat, a bolo tie, unfortunately, a Yankee baseball cap.
The American dream. He had it.
He came in illegally. He was released because of overcrowding. How come we don't have overcrowding now? We never had overcrowding. There was, every time Biden illegally released people, there was plenty of room for them. He was released because of overcrowding. He had climbed over the barbed wire fence in Eagle Pass, and then he got a nice little room with the judge. He ended up installing a glass door for the judge's wife. And his wife offered him a place to stay.
Sounds a little suspect.
And he hung out with the judge's daughter, April.
Interesting. I think they need
And she gave him some of her firearms. Looks like the daughter may have to do a little time. Looks like there's a lot going on here, right? The one good thing is this judge has been thrown off the bench right away. It isn't New York, where the Democrat leaders would probably put him on the Supreme Court.
They should just bar him.
What?
Just bar the judge. Yeah.
Well, they should just maybe they should put him in prison.
I like that.
What do you think about that?
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
For life.
The United Kingdom is part of this whole movement in France and Spain, in Germany, where they like to call the right-wing parties, they have Nazi sympathizers. But then the ruling party acts like a Nazi party. It's like what the Democrats do with Republicans. They call them racist. The biggest racist of all is Joe Biden. You hear the other day that he used to hang out with a lot of colored people. My children aren't going to go to school in the jungle. Obama was the first clean black to run for president. Well, in any event, the United Kingdom used to be the source of our laws, right? They just banned a gentleman named Renaud Camus. He's the author of Le Grand Replacement, in which he talks about the danger of mass migration and how it's altered Europe. And it has. I mean, it's the biggest problem, issue, major over-the-top issue going on in France, in Germany, and in the UK.
It's Muslim too, right?
And others, but those are the 3 big ones. Italy somewhat, but Italy a little calmer. And also the presence of Giorgia Meloni now for some time has calmed that down. She doesn't look like, the big sucker that the idiots running those other 3 countries look like. So he wrote a book about it. He's been banned from going to the United Kingdom. And the voters in Europe are swinging in his direction. He's arguing that mass migration is not a good thing. And he's banned from England. A shame on them, huh? That's what Nazis do. That's what communists do. That's what dictators do. I mean, the most important 2 rights you have are freedom of religion and freedom of speech. And boy, that doesn't exist in Europe right now. God got kicked out a while back. And look, in England, this is another outrageous case. A couple of weeks ago, they arrested a guy and prosecuted him for toxic thought. That's about as big a fascist practice as you can get. We can't let this was happening to us under Biden. We got to watch this. This is really careful. Most precious rights we have are freedom of religion and freedom of speech. And they both have been seriously trashed by not just Biden, but by the Democrat Party. And they keep trying to do it. And their allies all over Europe are doing it. So we'll keep you informed of it because nobody else will, because that's one of our raison d'etre, reason for existing. And we want to thank you for listening. We want to urge you to go over to X, where we will spend some time on the Pope, on Ukraine, and on Iran and Israel and what's happening there, where there seems to be kind of a disputes going on even within the administration. So we'll try to flesh them out for you and see what we can make of them. So go over to X right now, 8 o'clock. We'll be on, and we'll be back here at 7 tomorrow night on Lindell's speech and X, and then we'll be back again, of course, at 8 tomorrow night, and we'll tell you about how we intend to cover the funeral, because Ted and I haven't figured it out yet since it starts at 3 a.m. on Saturday.
I have a feeling I know how we're going to cover it.
In bed? This is Rudy Giuliani reporting under the sheets. So you have a great night, and you pray. It's time for prayer, that these things, we get past these things that we're talking about in Iran and in Israel and in Ukraine, and that everything works out the way it should for this great American nation that loves God so much and that God loves so much. Please keep blessing us, God. God bless America.